I create a judgment-free zone. Like, have the emotions you have.
You're the Planet Fitness of women.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Welcome to the show, people. Welcome to the show.
Eat my shorts.
So here is to conversation.
Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed.
Welcome to the Cash Exchange Podcast.
Welcome.
All right, 3 things for today.
Okay. What do you got?
What do the flat earth, Victorian medicine, and angry Zeus have to do with each other?
Flat Earth,
Mm-hmm.
Victorian medicine, and an angry Zeus.
Mm-hmm.
Believing in them can get you in a lot of trouble.
Actually, where I was going with it was the opposite. At one point, these were all the beliefs that you had to believe in, or you would be exiled from your community,
Okay.
or maybe even exiled from living on this earth. There was a time, and some might say that time is still here, where people believe that the earth was flat. Do you think the earth is flat?
No.
No? What's your evidence that it isn't?
Pikes Peak.
Nice.
So Pikes Peak is supposed to be so it's 14,000 feet, I think, in elevation. And when you get to the top, you're able to see the curvature of the earth. So theoretically speaking, it's the proof that we have of the round earth.
So if you were up there and the earth was flat, you would just look off into the distance and see the ice wall
Yes.
that keeps us all on the disk?
Alternatively, maybe if you see Pikes Peak, then you're basically looking at the earth, which is a contact lens. It's like that half dome kind of thing. Who's to say?
I was just in Colorado Springs, and we went to the bridge over
Royal
the big
Gorge?
yes,
Yep.
yes, and they had a video, and one of the takeaways from this video is that the mountain that the Pike, the one that they named the mountain after, he climbed the one next to it, and they mislabeled it.
History is full of mislabelings when it comes to geography.
Yeah, so the one that Pike actually summited was the one next to it, not actual Pike's Peak.
Well, that's a bummer.
Yeah,
Or really fortunate, is the other mountain shorter?
I think so.
Oh, then go Pike.
I think that
Good for
he
him.
put in less work, but still got the accolades.
Okay.
And Victorian
white?
medicine, come on, come on. There's a guy climbing a mountain. He's probably going to be white.
It's a great way to stay in shape.
It is, yeah. Yeah, and then you get to stop people on the way up or the way down and see if they're really into it. And if they're not, then you can convince them how into it you are.
When are they going to put the elevator in?
I don't know. There's whenever we were going to Colorado Springs, we were looking up a lot of stuff to do. And one of the videos that we watched on YouTube, it was about one of the waterfalls there.
Yeah.
And they were like, yeah, there's an elevator that you can take. And the guy was real pretentious about it.
Sure.
But if you want the real view and you want the real experience, then you're going to climb the stairs.
That's so ableist.
You're telling me, but it doesn't matter one way or the other because we didn't go. So I can't report to you on whether the walk up the stairs was worth it or not.
Are you talking about Seven Falls?
I think so.
Seven Falls was absolutely worth it.
Yeah.
It was a terrifying trip up the stairs because it's just like a freestanding metal staircase full of a ton of people who are not 100% sure they want to make it to the top of that really tall staircase. But once you get up to the top, it is incredible. Everyone was like white knuckling it just all the way up. It was wobbling from all of the tourists and stuff. So
I think if I were to go and I were in the same company that I was in with Royal Gorge, I think I'd probably be summiting it myself.
Yeah.
I don't think I could convince her to go.
I did Royal Gorge probably like 7 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And when we did it, the person that I was with was freaking out because the bridge moves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because, I mean,
Same
like,
here.
it's a suspension bridge. Like,
Yeah.
it's meant to wobble so that it doesn't collapse. And that was not reason enough for her to believe that it was actually not going to collapse at some point. We were just going to fall into the canyon.
First thing we did when we got there was the gondola.
Yeah.
And I probably still have marks on my knee from how tightly it was grabbed the entire ride.
Yeah.
So we took the gondola from the entrance side over to the other side and went and did all the stuff over there and then just walked back across the bridge.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, she just stayed in the lobby area, and I went on the gondola 2 more times. And she can say that she did it.
Yeah.
But it was pushing her the whole way through. But she can still say she did it. They used to have like a mine cart that went down into the canyon, like down to the bottom of the canyon.
Oh, okay, cool.
That got taken out by a fire that destroyed everything in that park except for the bridge. And then they're in the process of rebuilding that. So hopefully next time we go, that's going to be there. And then you can actually go down into the gorge.
When I did Pikes Peak the first time, I'm not really afraid of heights, but I don't like being the passenger in a car because I don't feel like I have like control over the situation.
Mm-hmm.
And the first time that I went to Pikes Peak, there was no monorail. They were in the middle of renovating it. But we had to drive up Pikes Peak, and I was on the side of the road that just like faced the side of the mountain because there are no like guardrails or anything, so I assume it ruins the aesthetic. And it was the scariest thing I've ever done, was being a passenger on the drive up and down Pikes Peak.
I'd love to go back. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And you should check it out if you're interested. If you're on the fence, go for it. Anyways, back to Victorian medicine.
Oh, right.
Have you ever been to the doctor and the doctor just suggested for fixing your ailments just leeches?
Leeches, cocaine,
Maybe
and
a
orgasms.
little bloodletting.
You know?
That was that. That's the one. That's the one I was going to use, but obviously I'm not going to put Victorian orgasms in the title of the episode.
That would be an interesting Instagram post.
That would be a hard one to illustrate, yeah. So I just put Victorian medicine instead.
Sure, yeah.
But anyways, it's a lot of phooey that people once believed was the end-all be-all, and this is going to be medicine forever, and then turns out maybe don't put leeches on your body to suck all the bad humors out. And the last thing, Angry Zeus. Sky goes boom. People say, oh, God's just angry.
Honestly, I think that would bring some whimsy to life these days if you just like saw a thunderstorm and were like, oh, God's pissed off.
And so you just go on a sacrificing spree.
I'm not suggesting we take all of the
Because of
Mount
lightning?
Olympus beliefs, but I'm saying we could take some of them.
But at the same time, isn't it crazy that electricity just shoots from the sky and can zap you and make you go boom?
Yeah. Either explain lightning to me or I'm going to start believing that Zeus is causing it.
Hindsight's 20/20. What we know now, just looking back at them, they just look like total idiots. But those were the experts of the time.
Whole lot of hooey.
Sounds like a lot of.
Hoopla!
But that also led me into things that we believe now. Not necessarily in regards to medicine or status on curvature of the earth or big sky go boom, but just things that we were taught as children that maybe don't hold as much water now, or maybe even didn't hold as much water then, but we were still taught them anyways.
Yeah.
Like the big one the one that really just driving factor behind this episode was love thy neighbor.
Mm-hmm.
I can't tell you the last time I have been around neighbors that I have enjoyed time with.
I don't know that I've known any of my neighbors since my first apartment.
Yeah.
Like I knew the ones growing up because we were a lot more involved with them. But as far as like since I've been living in apartments, I've known 2 probably of my neighbors, and that was more of just like in passing. We just happened to show up at the same things enough times that we became like friendly.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like we live in a neighborhood that is, I mean, I think most of these houses were probably built early 2000s.
Okay.
And these people, a majority of them have lived here since then. Like they were new tenants for the house. And so there's some territorial chest beating that goes on. Like the first thing that I noticed was whenever we moved in, I have a personal truck, wife has a car, and then I have a work vehicle that I have to leave at my house, and I park it at the curb right in front of our house. First interaction we had with the person across the street was an older lady, and she came up and she was like, "Hey, how you doing?" She was like introducing herself to the kids and all this other stuff, and she just fakes a conversation. That's just basic like cordial stuff. Like it's like whatever, it's inconsequential. And then she was like, "So I just want to ask, can you put the truck somewhere else, like the one that's on the curb?" I was like, no, I don't have anywhere else to put it.
Yeah.
Like this is in front of our house, so I can park it there. But I mean, it's not going to be here all the time. And then after that, it was just like complete flip, and she is just the iciest
wiener.
bitch.
Yeah.
Yeah, that you've ever met. And still to this day, we've been here 4 years, 3 years, going into 4 years. I don't remember. She hasn't said anything since then. I'll wave to her. She'll ignore me.
Oh.
And she's just a very unpleasant person. So why, just based on proximity, do I need to love this person?
I mean, is that phrase actually based on proximity, or is it just like love another person as you would love yourself kind of thing?
I mean, I think it's both. I think that you should want to feel like you are involved in your community, and other people should feel the same involvement with you. And I think that that comes with being able to have these conversations with these people and being able to have a amicable relationship.
Right.
The guy next to us, who his house was for rent, he rented the house, and then he decided to offer to buy it from them, and they sold it to him. And so he's been here maybe half as long as the old heads that are here.
Yeah.
And I think his deal is that he got the same nonsense that I got. And so now that he is a resident, he gets to push all that onto me, but it's like tenfold.
Yeah.
Because
Okay.
he says some of the most just weirdest stuff.
Weird how?
Well, again, with the truck on the curb, he is next to us, so we share that same curb. He came to my door one time and said, "Hey, man, what's going on with this truck on the curb?" I was like, "What do you mean?" He's like, why are you pulled up onto my property?"
What?
Like, what are you talking about, man? And apparently I had pulled up maybe like 6 inches, a foot more than I usually did, like towards his house. And he thought that it was egregious enough to come to my door and chastise me for where the truck was parked and that I was parked on his property.
Yeah.
And this is the same man who half-assedly put up Christmas lights. He ran like a string above his garage eave, and then one from the post by his door just randomly to a tree and left it up for like 6 months. I think he put them up in like mid-December, and then they came down like end of July.
He's like he's a redneck woman.
Yeah, and then he I guess he thinks he's got a green thumb because he's just got potted plants all over the place. He does take care of his yard, I'll give him that.
Yeah.
But he also just has random potted plants everywhere. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with him. Because every interaction with him has made it to where I don't want to know what's going on with him.
That's fair.
So we just cohabitate and try to make the best of it.
I feel like we've become such an antisocial society in just like a general sense that there feels like there's so much weight on every interaction that we have.
Mm-hmm.
And so now we expect if things don't go our way from the get-go that we just have to be the like chest beating assholes kind of thing.
That's fair. Yeah, I mean, even if you're not basing this on community just interactions in general.
Yeah.
I get that you don't know what everyone is dealing with at all times during their lives, but I feel like common courtesy is just out the window, and that it shouldn't be groundbreaking when you go somewhere and someone says, "Hey, how you doing?" But it is.
Yeah.
Especially in like I want to put your industry on blast, but I do feel like since COVID, since all the lockdowns and everything, like service industry has just gone in the toilet.
I've had a couple of conversations about that specific thing that like since COVID happened, it changed the perspective for both sides, for the patrons and for the people that work it.
Mm-hmm.
So for the people that work it, they were told they were these like essential workers or whatever. Like I worked at a BJ's during COVID. I was
You
not
did what during COVID? Sorry.
I worked at a very lame chain restaurant during COVID. I was not an essential worker.
Yeah.
But they brought me back because, you know, both Texas and because we were in desperate need of employees. And the people that came back were a 50-50 of the ones that were just like so excited to be out of lockdown and away from their homes for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And the people who were just so far up their own butts about how we did things. Like, no one is requiring you to go to a restaurant. I don't know why anyone would go to a restaurant if they had this, like, you're not doing this, this, and this right. Like, I know.
Mm-hmm.
I have 10 tables right now. Like, I have to move at the pace that I'm moving.
Yeah.
There are things that are going to get sacrificed, and I'm trying to keep both healthy and I'm trying to keep as clean as possible.
Yeah.
But there are some things that just, like, will fall by the wayside. And so it was so deeply demoralizing for a lot of people in the industry that they came back to something that had just changed so drastically so fast.
Mm-hmm.
And people felt in a lot of ways that they were given free rein to treat us like we weren't people anymore.
Yeah.
And so it was things got worse on both sides. And then when inflation got like continuously worse and things got more expensive, people were more pissed off about the tipping thing.
Mm-hmm.
And because of COVID, everyone who gave you a thing, who passed a food or a drink over a counter, served you for the amount of time that it takes to get from an espresso machine to the front counter, would like give you an iPad with a tip option.
Mm-hmm.
And so like it pissed off everyone.
Yeah. No, one of my least favorite things that I still cannot wrap my head around is you go to a game, like a sporting event.
Mm-hmm.
You're paying $50 for parking. You paid easily $100 per ticket. You go in, you wait 45 minutes in a line to get carnival food, and they just go get the prepackaged thing,
Mm-hmm.
or they fill up a cup, they hand it to you, they flip their computer around, and there's an option for a 25% tip. And I think that one of the biggest issues that people have is like, where is the line for you are being paid to do this job versus this is a job that you went above and beyond for to get a tip?
I don't know if this is a controversial take, because I know that like tipping in its entirety is really controversial right now, but
It's more than just a city in China.
I don't like tipping people that get paid hourly.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it's
You mean like a hourly wage, like a regular hourly wage,
Yes.
not like the
Yeah.
$2.13 that servers get?
I don't get paid that $2.13. I've never seen it
Yeah,
in
I
all of
haven't
my
either.
time serving. It's not a real number. But I don't like tipping people that make hourly. And part of that, this might sound like a cop out, but part of that is because I think that if you perpetuate the system and you're tipping baristas, people who are making hopefully a decent amount of money,
Mm-hmm.
if you start tipping people like that, then, or people in those roles, then those companies are going to decide, oh, well, these people are making a good amount of tips. We're just going to move them to the same pay scale as servers.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to make them make $2.13 an hour, and then people are going to, like, car hops at Sonic.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that those people make $2.13 an hour and it's not widely known that they're actual like servers,
They don't make.
they make
Actual-
$2.13 an hour.
Huh. I've never seen a Sonic busy enough to justify $2.13 an hour.
Yeah. And so realistically, like that just gives them the ability to pitch the job as like, you'll be making $12 to $15 an hour, which no one is ever going to make $12 to $15 an hour at Sonic.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to make $7.25, and that's because they didn't make enough in tips to cover the difference between $2.13 and $7.25.
Mm-hmm.
I can get very heated about tipping
No.
culture.
I'm surprised because, I mean, you have been in the serving industry for way longer than I was.
I just passed 10 years.
So it's comforting, I guess, to know that the issue is on both sides, and it's not just you look like a dick for just saying, hey, these people shouldn't be tipped. Like, they're just doing their job. Why am I? And there's nothing to go above and beyond for.
Right.
Like, I was still waiting in line for 45 minutes. Was there anything you could have done about that? And then you get the people, I mean, I guess once the option was available to them, then all of a sudden, well, if you're not going to tip, then I'm just not going to do my job. I'll just do it whenever I feel like doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, I don't know what the solution is, but it is very frustrating to have spill into all sorts of aspects of life.
I think the solution in that case is to eradicate tipping entirely. I say that for the record as a person, like I said, who has been tipped or in tipped jobs for 10 years now.
Mm-hmm.
I think eventually the solution is just to stop tipping because it doesn't make any sense. Like I've benefited from the system the way that it is, but it would make so much more sense if we adopted the European model or the model of almost any other country and give people that do like service jobs an hourly wage, and then you can tip if it's appropriate based on the level of you feel like they went above and beyond.
Yeah.
Like I worked in a place where like the amount that a guest would spend was very high.
Mm-hmm.
And so it kind of enabled this kind of mentality with a lot of people that I worked with that like, because we had high standards, that we deserved more than like 20% of the bill, to which I think it's ridiculous because like, I'm grateful that you gave me anything. Like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
some tips are stupid. Like it's not, sometimes it is genuinely a slight to you because a person agreed to go out to a restaurant knowing that the person that was taking care of them and was creating this experience for them was making $2.13 an hour, and they actively chose to not tip.
Yeah, it's an unwritten social contract.
Right. But at the same time, like I think there's for lack of a better term, a tipping point where like it's kind of absurd the things that some of the people that are still in the service industry expect at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Like at the end of the day, like you're serving food, you're being super friendly with them. Like maybe I'll get along. Cool. That is your job.
Yeah. And then you've got companies that try to straddle the line, like Casa Bonita. There is a added gratuity. I don't remember how much it was, but the reasoning is so that our servers can have a living wage. Okay, then if you're going to add it on anyways, then just add it to the price of the food.
Yeah.
But then you don't want to add it to the price of the food because then that makes the food less desirable, and then you're not going to have as much business. And so what you're saying is like you're putting it on the customer saying, hey, these are the prices of our food, but you're going to have to pay this.
Yeah.
And you're not going to have any say in it. We're going to force you to pay it because if you don't, then these servers don't have a living wage. Well, then maybe restructure your system.
Right.
Don't try to put this guilt trip on me saying, oh, well, we had to do this 15% because otherwise all these servers are going to be out on the streets.
One last little soapbox about tipping. I recently left a job where apparently this is a like pretty common practice. I was at the same job for 4 years before this one. And apparently it's pretty common practice that your tips to your server are split between all of the members of the service staff, as well as the people that seat you, the people that run your food, and the people who clean your tables.
Which I had a problem with the one that cleans your tables.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're doing your job, because I worked at a child's play of serving. I didn't ever step up to anything that was ever serious.
Sure.
But we did have stuff like that. Like we had a SA, a server's assistant. It's funny because they were usually Mexican. So they were my SA.
Boo.
Anyways, if you're doing your job the right way, then whenever that table is gone, there shouldn't be much work for them to do.
Right.
And so you have this person that is supposed to come up behind you and get your table ready for the next person, but then you're being chastised if you don't have full hands in, full hands out. So you go out, you're running food, but you come in with dirty dishes to put in the pit, and those get washed so they can be reused. So then why are we having all these extra people here? If at the end of them getting up, there's maybe like 2 cups to go, and then you just wipe the table down. Why are we paying for people to run the food when you're expecting all the servers that have all this other stuff to do are also running the food? Like, we're paying one person to run the food, but maybe you've only been to my table 4 times in one night, and I owe you $20 because of that?
If that's upsetting to you, then you would be driven absolutely crazy by the tip system that we had in my last
That's
place.
why I got out.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of the reasons.
Sure.
But that was why I did not like the job anymore.
Yeah. The place that I most recently worked at, they didn't hire anyone but servers. So the people that hosted were servers. The people that ran food were servers. The people that like bartended were servers. And the reason that they did that was because everyone that did any one of those like support jobs or actual serving was making the exact same amount of money. And it was so that the restaurant didn't have to pay anybody. Everyone made $2.13 an hour. And if I say I made $200 in a night, I would probably take home $75 because hosts don't contribute anything to a tip pool. Runners don't contribute anything to a tip pool. Anyone that busses tables doesn't contribute anything to a tip pool. But my money is everyone's money.
Yeah. So if you're one of the hosts or you're one of the bus people, and you just see someone that is being the worst to one of their tables, do they say anything? Like, do they say, "Hey, you treat this table right. You're messing with my money"?
There were a couple of people who I guess had come from like restaurants that were in a different system, and I hadn't worked in a system like this where everyone was making all of the same money. But I still helped out all of my teammates because if the restaurant does better, the restaurant does better.
Mm-hmm.
And there were people at my last job that would be upset that they would have to like ring in food for somebody else because when they went to drop something off, the table was like, "Hey, can I also get this?" Like, that's still your job. You're taking care of everybody in the restaurant just because you're not technically the person that's taking care of them. You cannot possibly have this is just my section of the restaurant mentality if you're sharing your money.
Mm-hmm.
And so it just got to a point of just abject ridiculousness, which I think the industry in its entirety is getting that way because of the greed of the companies that run them.
Mm-hmm.
All of the hospitality groups that have decided that the more people that they can hire at $2.13 an hour, the better.
What do you think the breaking point's going to be?
Inflation is going to be used as the scapegoat for restaurants raising their prices to a laughable extent. I think that eventually it's going to get, like, if you look at the trends with how Gen Z versus the millennials spend at restaurants, Gen Z is going back to Chili's, to Applebee's, to all of these like chain restaurants that like millennials kind of turned up their noses at because millennials wanted like the more hipstery food, the thing with a concept behind it.
Ugh.
And so many restaurants took that and used it as an insane ego boost. They were like, we can call it farm to table and charge whatever we want for it. And so I think that those things are on their way out. And because of that, the industry in its entirety is going to collapse one day. The dining experience is so ruined because of how expensive absolutely everything has gotten. And there's no way to rectify that with a good enough experience. Like, I can like make sure that you enjoy your food. I'll make sure that everything gets to your table on time. You get like refills and all the things you need, whatever. But at the end of the day, like, if the only thing that you're taking away from your experience is how much money you spent, you're not going to go back. It's not going to be worth it to you no matter how much you enjoyed everything. And the more experiences you have where your takeaway from it is just how expensive it was, then eventually the industry it's going to meet its end.
Yeah, and even those chain places, the prices are ridiculous from what they used to be.
Yeah.
I mean, I sound like I'm just screaming at the clouds when I say that there used to be a 2 for $20 where 2 people could eat at Chili's for $20. Appetizer, 2 entrees, and 2 drinks for $20.
Yeah.
And now that's like part of one person's meal.
Right.
That being said, these millennials are going to Chili's this evening. So we also have a real fun story from the last time we were at Chili's. If you'd like to hear that, let us know. Reach out, Twitter, Instagram, X, Facebook, leave a comment.
Are you dead naming
Review.
all the social medias?
Leave us 5-star reviews saying we want the Chili's story on Amazon Music, Apple Music, or Spotify. All right, number 2.
Number 2.
Have you ever been told, I think you probably hear this in school, you'll need this in the future?
I think in a lot of the context that like that's been used in, I was a little too young for that to have made sense. Because I was already like, there were still cell phones and stuff from the earliest memories that I have.
Yeah.
They weren't as widespread, but I don't think I got like you have to be able to do this math by hand because you're never going to have a calculator with you.
Or you need to memorize these facts and be able to recite them back to me because You're not just going to have some easy way to look it up in the future when you need this information.
To be fair, that mentality is why I'm great at trivia. That's why both of us are great at trivia, I'm sure.
We are, yeah. The elderly gentleman that I am, all throughout school, it was, you need to have this. You need to be able to do this by hand because you're not going to be able to use calculators or this or that or whatever whenever you're older. And now it's just all in our pockets, literally anything. There's a picture from an ad from, I want to say the mid-90s, and it is just all the technology of the day. It was like, I don't know, 50 different things. It was a CD player, it was a cassette player, it was a boom box, it was a TV, it was a Game Boy, it was all this other stuff. And all that stuff is just in one device in our pockets at all times.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of merit still to that one, that you need to be able to do this. Not obviously because there's no way that you'll be able to do it by yourself in the future if you don't learn now. But I think there is a lot of merit to knowing how to get from point A to point B, even if you don't use it regularly. Like, I don't think I could do long division because it's been a million years since I've had to do long division. Developing that skill and being able to having been able to do it at some point in my life, it would be able to be picked back up if I needed it.
Yeah, like having an understanding of the concept, but maybe not being so beat over the head with it.
Right.
Yeah, no, I get that. And there is still merits to anything on this list. There's still merits to love thy neighbor. There's still merits for you'll need this information in the future. But I just think that people really underestimated what the future would look like. And so these things don't hold the weight that they used to.
Imagine if the Zune was the like takeoff music player. Imagine where we'd be technologically if it wasn't the iPod.
And we just had the Zoo phone. And then like, I don't know what, Bill Gates was the Steve Jobs.
Yeah.
Bill Gates had the black turtlenecks, the illegitimate children
the black
that he left out of the will.
The thing that gave him power?
It might be, but because I think the last photo of Steve Jobs before he died is him in a deep V. So maybe if he had thrown on that black turtleneck one more time, he could have powered through.
Maybe he gave it up because he was killed by a PC.
Maybe they couldn't find the eye cure fast enough. How do you feel about the phrase, hard work always pays off?
I think it's absolute nonsense. I don't think it always pays off. I think it can pay off, but I think that a lot of things are dumb luck and the right connections at this point.
No, networking is so vital for any kind of work relationship.
Yeah.
It's pretty frustrating. As someone who maybe isn't as much of an extrovert as the next guy, you try to rest your laurels on, okay, well, maybe I can't yuck it up with these guys as much, but if I just put my nose to the grindstone and really, really knock it out of the park, then that's going to get me somewhere. It doesn't. The other guy is going to win every time. And so that's something that I've gotten better about is the schmoozing. I don't like it.
Sure.
But it's just a fact of life, and it's just the way of the world.
I think this particular idiom, aphorism, I don't know what the term is.
I think it's an idiom. I think it's idiotic.
Sure. I think this particular idiom grinds my gears, and it's because I worked incredibly hard to get a degree.
Yeah.
And in the time that I was trying to get a degree, I did have to work, which I think most people that are getting their higher education degree have to work during that time.
Yeah.
Whenever I finished school, I applied to everything that I could to get from food service into a job in my field. And
Like agriculture?
Honestly, I should have tried agriculture. I think I would have had better luck being a farmhand. But I applied to everything in my field and got nothing. And I knew that I had applied to jobs that like were based on the job descriptions out of my wheelhouse, because a lot of the like almost every quote unquote entry level job required years of experience or like internships or things that like I did not have the time or the opportunity to do when I was in school. And so I feel like I set myself up for failure, and that I worked incredibly hard for a piece of paper that I cannot use, that I can't get the opportunity to use. Because it doesn't really matter. Like, I didn't have the right connections. I didn't know any of the right people, and I I didn't, I guess, put in enough effort to schmooze whenever I was in school to make connections with people who had connections.
Yeah, and you also fall into the trap of you've created I wouldn't say it's a career because I don't think people get into the service industry to say this is what I'm going to be doing forever. So it's a career-like path, but it's not where you hope to end up. And so you have to flush all that down the toilet and start all over again from scratch when you have your degree and you're moving on into something else. And I understand that you can do internships, and most of them are unpaid, and take up all your time, the time a normal job would take up. You maybe are trying to get a degree in a field that you're already working in, so it's you just by virtue of being already in that industry, you'll be able to work up faster. But usually for most people, it means just throwing everything away and starting from scratch and starting from the bottom. And maybe in 5-6 years, you're back to where you started, and then you're working up from there. Yeah. And it's just, every day it just seems like more and more, one, college degrees aren't worth it. Because I would say right now, my college degree is not worth it.
I couldn't tell you where my actual piece of paper is.
Yeah.
I don't know where my degree is.
Yeah. I don't currently use it. I'm hoping to, but the plans that I have with the company that I'm at now, I don't need it. It's something to say that I have. I think I could still say that I have it and not ever need to verify it, but it just is, it's rough to put all that time into that, and then you get onto the other side and you think that you finally got it all together and everything's going to be peaches and cream, but you get hit with that hard reality that, actually none of that really matters because now you're just back to square one.
Right. Whenever I was job hunting, a lot of the things that I found, because I reached out to career coaches and people who would give advice on this specific kind of thing. And a lot of it was you just need to get your foot in the door at the company and then prove that you can do the thing, whatever, which I don't think is something that still happens these days. The work your way up from the mailroom it's not real.
It's not, because then you have somebody who did a thing on the internet, went viral, and then we want them for this company.
Right. But a lot of that, it was talking about how they need to make sure that you have this experience to make sure that you're worth it as an employee, essentially. Yeah, I spent 4 years proving that I can do this stuff.
Yeah.
I graduated with honors. I don't know what else you need from me to pay me not a livable wage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, to sit here and say, yeah, we're real glad that you have all this knowledge for this industry fresh in your mind because you just graduated, but we can't trust you. Yeah. So we're going to start you here, but don't worry, you'll move up real fast.
Right.
And that actually leads into another one of the words of non-wisdom. What's the opposite of wisdom?
Idiocy?
That's what I was going to say. Words of idiocy that we had beaten to our heads was work for one job and rise up. You can't do that anymore.
No.
You are so expendable. You're with a job for 10 years. Something gets rough for them. They start looking at the people that make the most money or make more money than they'd like to. Not the head people,
mm-hmm.
not the people at the head of the table, but they want the people that are more expensive, and you're going to be gone. Well, it's cost cutting because the company is really taking a hit right now because of A, B, C, and D. So we're sorry, but we're just going to have to let you go.
I read something a little while ago talking about how Gen Z people are doing this thing that just pisses off the boomers, which, to be fair, what doesn't piss off the boomers? But they were talking about how Gen Z is doing something called job hopping, where it was you'll stay at a job for 6 months or whatever, and then you'll leave. And I absolutely support that because there's nothing that the companies are doing in the situation to feed back into you.
Mm-hmm.
It's a job. It's not a career.
No.
There was a job that I did for, I think I was there for 8 months, and I love my coworkers. But there was a certain point where everything had changed hands in upper management. And so they decided that the best way to approach all of the change that was happening was to set weekly Q&As with our CEO. Every week for months, they would take every member of the company They would put us on a Zoom call, and then they would just tell us, like, we're downsizing. We're just, like, trying to make sure this company makes sense.
Uh-huh.
We're restructuring. We're trying to figure out how these pieces fit into this puzzle. And the entire thing was just, like, people would be asking the one question that everybody wanted to know that they weren't going to outright tell us, which was, are we getting laid off?
Mm-hmm.
For months, they just would skirt the fact that 100 out of 150 questions were, are we getting laid off? And then they just cut everybody. And, like, at that point, why would I want to stay?
Mm-hmm.
If you spent 2 months telling me that I'm about to lose my job, what reason do I have to want to try?
Yeah, I mean, there's no loyalty anymore. And okay, that's if the bottom line and the profit margin is more important than the people that make that profit, then that is fine. That's your choice, but I don't owe you anything. I don't have to sit here and kiss the ring when something goes south with me. Oh, well, you have cancer? We really need you in here. Okay, well, I got chemo. Okay, well, can you come in after? And that was based on a post I found on Reddit about an am I the asshole? It's like, how are you asking yourself this question?
Yeah.
If you're an asshole because you told your boss you weren't going to come in post chemo. And I know a lot of this is going to affect older generations and, well, just pull yourself up by your bootstraps and do all this and do all that. But this is a completely different system. I won't say that's a completely different system than the one they have. It's a completely different system than what they were raised in. But then they did the same thing Peter Dinklage did. They got their success, and then they shut the door right behind them. And so now all these younger generations are picking up all the pieces from it and just trying to make something work.
Yeah.
And then you get all these older people coming on the news saying, oh, well, younger generations don't want to work anymore. They don't want to do this. They don't want to do that. And all that other stuff. And I mean, it's true, but it's also not as cut and dry as these people are just lazy. These people are just tired of it. These people are, it's so bad that a CEO for a pharmaceutical company can be gunned down in the middle of the streets in New York City, and people are praising the shooter. And for the record, don't agree with it. I have United Healthcare. There's a whole bunch of stuff that they do that I don't agree with. Mm-hmm. That doesn't give someone the right to murder their CEO, who was a father, a husband, ex-husband, I don't know, whatever his deal was, but it doesn't matter. And for people to justify it by saying, oh, well, he was a shit dad. Because I read this story on this one place. Oh, he was a shit husband because maybe they were getting a divorce and all this other stuff. Like, if you have to justify it that hard, then you completely lost the point. Like, it's either about the decisions he made with the healthcare company as the CEO, or it isn't. But you can't say, well, it was because of that, but then he also deserved it because of all these personal reasons. Well, you wouldn't know these personal reasons if he hadn't been gunned down in the middle of the street in New York City.
I'm not as against that particular situation as you are. Not condoning murder, obviously, but in the terms of what he did as the CEO, there were a lot of like cost-cutting measures or profit-boosting things and stuff that were just so incredibly inhuman that, like, I think it's tough to justify his humanity in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Again, not condoning murder, but I think that if you are giving him that level of humanity, like, yeah, he was a father, he was someone's son, he was all of these things, like, yeah, but so were all of the people that died because they didn't have access to proper health care because of choices that man made. Mm-hmm. And then he goes on to earnings calls to brag about it.
Yeah.
I don't condone what happened, but I also don't feel a whole lot of sympathy for it.
But it's the people are just a number. That's the attitude with everything, even outside of healthcare, is that people are completely expendable. People have no background. They have no familial ties. They are just a drone that is meant to do a thing until they are no longer useful to do that thing, and then they can be let go. Mm-hmm. And so I completely get the mindset behind the motivation. It's not as cut and dry as CNN wants to make it. It's not cut and dry as Fox News wants to make it.
Sure.
There's definitely a bunch of gray area. And I think, I mean, I'm definitely not in the center. I fall towards one side,
Right.
but I'm not just completely on that bandwagon. But, I mean, we're just going to see more and more of this as the system begins to crumble more and more every day.
So there was a thing that happened. I don't remember exactly what it was because there have been a billion things that have happened since. But after the CEO was shot, there was something that happened with Blue Cross Blue Shield where they had made a decision and then they walked it back immediately afterwards. I think it was probably remarkably stupid for them to have done that.
Yes.
Because
you stick to it.
If you are under the impression, because I assume it was some incredibly high up person in the company that was like, oh shit, I don't want to die next.
Yeah.
If you are proving to the American people that you have the ability to not make decisions that would decimate plenty of families,
Mm-hmm.
and you're only going to do the right thing whenever one of your compatriots gets murdered, then I think you're maybe perpetuating the wrong narrative. In
a way, it's rewarding bad behavior. It's saying, oh, so there's consequences to this? Well, then maybe that's not the right way to phrase it. So someone does something bad, and then so on the Blue Cross Blue Shield side, it's, oh, okay, so there can be consequences for me making these decisions. Let's reverse it. But then on the other hand, you're also saying, okay, so if we murder people, we get our way. And so it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
I think it was the wrong decision too, because just the optics of it as a business. And if you sit back and think about the fact that these people have been raking in millions and millions and millions of dollars every year as the ones who, quote unquote, make these decisions consequence free. Maybe they have a protest or something once a year outside their building when they're walking to their town car,
right,
or whatever. Yeah. And then now you're showing them, hey, no, not anymore. So I do understand that aspect of it. And I do, maybe I'm a little closer to the situation just because I, at face value, have a lot more similarities.
You're a father?
Yeah. Father. And it's just, yeah, I mean, maybe that probably has a lot to do with it.
Sure. But you also, having known you for all of my life, you would never make a decision or a series of decisions that would be such a net negative for so many people.
No.
So you can't really put yourself on the same playing field because you wouldn't, I don't think, ever be in a situation where you would do something so completely disregarding of human life.
But I think that he also was put in a position where, okay, you either make this as valuable to the stakeholders as possible, or you don't get the salary anymore. You get accustomed to that salary. Now someone with completely unquakable morals would probably say, okay, keep your salary. I'm not doing this. But then you're going to get someone else in who is, okay, stakeholders want what? Okay, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4.
So he's justified in it because he was looking at the paycheck, not the people?
I'm not saying he's justified in it. I'm not saying his hands were clean in it. I'm saying that it's not cut and dry.
Sure,
it's not he was doing this, so this thing happened to him, and that was good because of that. That was bad because of that.
Right.
I'm saying that he was fulfilling a job. Whether he was doing it for the right reasons or not is irrelevant because either way, he's dead.
Sure.
My main concern is just the fact that things have gotten so bad that it's something to be praised.
Sure, yeah.
And it's something that people feel comfortable saying out loud. Because, I mean, even if this were to happen, I don't know, 20 years ago, then people wouldn't be publicly saying, hoorah. It would be private. And then this is another thing that has been torpedoed by the internet and places like Twitter and 24-hour news cycles and all that stuff, is that everyone has to have this opinion that is either meant to just echo the people around them or be so quote unquote controversial, which I don't think there's a controversial anymore, a controversial opinion anymore
Yeah.
on the internet. I think everything is just such an attempt to be controversial that this is just what we live in now.
Yeah.
Like a middle of the road comment or opinion is the controversial one.
Well, I mean, even in a lot of the places that like you and I disagree on things that have been said in this podcast or just in general, I think so much of the merit in these conversations is that I don't think I'm glued to any of the opinions that I have.
Yeah.
I'm always willing to listen to the other side of things, even if I don't end the conversation agreeing with you or like changing anything. I don't think that it's necessarily like in this situation, I don't think we're going to agree.
Yeah.
Because although I will absolutely recognize that there are a lot more nuances to the situation, I don't have any sympathy in it, which I absolutely recognize is at least partly because you can identify with this man more than I can.
Mm-hmm.
But this is a conversation that I've had also a lot of times recently about like how deeply specific our algorithm gets into our brain.
Mm-hmm.
And so like the things that I was always shown after this particular situation happened it was jokes, it was thirst traps, it was like, which
bold choice,
bizarre, but it would just be people making light of just the most ridiculous situation. At the end of the day, like it's the people's coping mechanism for a world that makes absolutely no sense anymore.
Yep.
The fact that there was ever room for us to be cheering for a CEO or a person in general getting murdered in broad daylight, like it's a societal collapse. But I think that like the conversation that I've been having about this is that you have to try to do your best whenever you're doom scrolling, which is difficult because you're only getting maybe 60 seconds of a video at a time, to think critically about what is being fed to you, why it's being fed to you, and who stands to gain from you having a more intense opinion about the situation.
Yeah.
Like Nate will be fed a lot of like those videos of people that are recording in restaurants and they're upset because someone has like misgendered them.
Oh, like who's the big one?
Lily Tina. So in this particular situation, like this person is upset because a server called them by the wrong gender. And so they go just bananas. They're complaining about this person and talking about like how deeply offensive it is, despite the fact that the waiter in the video is apologetic and corrects themselves. And so like it's frustrating that is the conversation because that's not indicative of an entire community. Nothing that you see online is indicative of the entire community.
Yeah, and also this person puts them in this position in order to have these confrontations.
Right. And so like if that is your purview of the trans community, like of course you're going to have a negative opinion because these people are just out to start fights, which is not in any way, shape, or form accurate.
Yeah. And
so like it's more important now than ever to actually use your brain. Think about who stands to gain from the things that you're seeing.
Yeah, and everything. I can't tell you how many times, especially since the stuff that happened with the stabbing in Frisco, and then the stuff that is now happening in Minnesota. I think they've got battling Give Sin Go. Is that what it's called?
They what?
What is it? What is like? It's like it's a donation platform. Yeah, it's Give Sin Go. It's a fundraising platform. Like I can't remember what the big one is.
Kickstarter?
GoFundMe?
GoFundMe?
GoFundMe, yeah. And so they are, for whatever reason, they were the platform that was tasked with taking in the donations for the white kid that was stabbed in Frisco, the guy that is being accused of his unaliving his legal funds. And then last week, some extremely strange story of unsupervised 5-year-old at the park starts going through this woman's diaper bag. She verbally berates the kid, calls him the N-word, is being recorded by a Somali potential pedophile that picks up 16-year-olds at the gas station.
What?
And then it comes out that this child was 5 years old, which he's about as tall as Max is, so I don't buy 5 years old, but then also autistic.
Okay.
And then black, and then this woman. It's a wild story. You should look into it.
Okay.
Anyways, this turned into just the white woman in Minnesota versus the black kid from Frisco, and who could raise the most money. And it's like its own civil war because both comments when you were filling out like a donation, you could write a comment.
Yeah.
Both of them had to be turned off because they were so kill the whites, kill the black.
Jeez.
And both the one is at like $519,000. The other one is on its way to, it's at like close to 600, on its way to $1 million. The legal fund one is the one that's up for 519,000 right now. And then that one, it came out that they're moving into a big rental house in Frisco in a gated community with security and all this other stuff. It's like something like $4,000 a month rent and all that.
Yeah.
And then the other one, the one in Minnesota, is talking about how she needs to relocate because she's been doxxed and all this other stuff. And I get that. I get the backlash from it because one, it was a child. Two, it was racially motivated. And so that's stuff that's going to get you doxxed. Should it? Don't know. I'm not the judge and jury for that. I know that I wouldn't do it and I would just go about my business, but it's turned into all this extra fluff that it doesn't need to be. And the one in Frisco, we don't know the whole story. The one in Minnesota, we don't know the whole story. There's just bits and pieces, enough of it to where people feel like they can make a decision, and a lot of it is probably racially motivated, just like the stuff with the CEO of United Healthcare was financially motivated, and people just posting the most vile stuff about all of it, about this woman saying that she's a single mother, and she's all tatted up, so they're gonna have lots to say about that, and then calling the black kid a thug, and just all this stuff. And it's also indicative of how, when these phrases were popularized, when they were in like the public consciousness most prevalently, they could not have foreseen the way the world would look by now. And yet these things are still taught. Like I'm cognizant enough that most of the stuff, like these isms that we were taught, are just bullshit at this point. Yeah. And so when I'm talking to my kids about it, I have ways to rework them to where they actually make sense in today's era. Like you were saying, you'll need this for the future. It's okay, well, you may not think you need it, but what if your phone dies? What if you don't have a phone available to you? You still need to know the process of this. So you need to know what the phone is doing, whether you're actually doing the moving the decimal or any of that stuff. You need to understand the process behind it. That's why we're doing this. Love thy neighbor. You need to make an effort to be kind to people. Know that most people are not going to be kind back to you. Maybe not most people, but the ones that are not kind in return are the ones that are going to stick out. So it's going to feel like a majority of people are not kind to you, even though you feel like you've given your best foot forward. Hard work always pays off. It's not going to. You can put everything you have into something and it's not going to pan out. But you know what? At least you tried. And you move on, you put all that hard work into something else, and maybe that does pay off.
That's when you get to those points where, like, Leslie Jones was in her 50s or something when she was on SNL. And, like, Samuel L. Jackson was, like, 60 when he was in Pulp Fiction, things like that, or 40 when he was in Pulp Fiction. Yeah,
which, it's also been weighing heavy on my heart since we recorded Friday's episode, the last episode. Reservoir Dogs was from 92.
Okay.
And Pulp Fiction was from 94. I said that Reservoir Dogs was from 94 and Pulp Fiction was from 96. Please don't chastise us. Or if you're going to, at least leave a comment on X, Instagram, Facebook, or in a 5-star review on iTunes, Spotify, or Amazon Music.
Wherever you get your podcast.
Plug number 2.
All right. So I don't know how many you have left, but I am going to throw a couple of mine out. So Money Can't Buy Happiness. That is one of the ones that pisses me off to no end. Because, I'm not looking to, like, make myself happy with a number. Yeah. But I am looking to be able to pay my bills.
Yeah.
I am looking to be able to go on a vacation and not have to think about everything I spend.
That's true. Yeah. Money may not buy the actual happiness, but money puts you in a position to be happy.
It puts me in a situation where, like, I don't have to stress out about a fun thing because there are consequences to it.
Yes.
And I think that's, like, that ties back into restaurants. Like, you don't want to go out to a nice restaurant because you put stress on yourself because of how much money you're spending.
Yeah.
At that point, don't go. But I still want to have nice things. I still want to be able to go out and do stuff. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's another thing that I try to instill in the children. Like I made sure from very early on, they understood the value of money, because money is going to be it's going to be a common factor in everything they do for the rest of their lives.
Right.
where you can say there's stuff more important than money. There's not really not, because somewhere down the line, money is involved. Whether it's you don't want to go out because you want to save the money. Okay, well maybe going out is where you meet a spouse, where you meet someone that you date and send your life on a whole nother trajectory.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't want to spend the money on this podcast equipment. Well, maybe podcasting is something that is going to be something you can enjoy, and it's going to be a sustainable way to make more money in the future.
I think the gaping flaw in Money Can't Buy Happiness is that it's always framed wrong. Money can't buy happiness. Like, I'm not trying to buy a Lamborghini.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need a yacht. I don't need a mansion.
Yeah.
I just want to be able to like buy foods that are not full of processed nonsense.
And live comfortably.
I want to be able to pay my rent.
Yeah.
I want to like be able to blow a tire and not freak out about how I'm going to replace it. Like, I'm not looking for the silver spoon lifestyle. I just want comfortability.
Yeah.
Money would buy my happiness. It would buy my peace.
Yeah. And for most situations, peace is happiness.
Respect your elders.
Not everyone deserves respect.
Correct.
You earn it. Just because you've been on this earth longer than me doesn't mean that you haven't just had the opportunity to be an asshole for longer than me.
There was a particular situation in a previous job that I had in which things were being said about me to my coworkers from member of management. And I was spoken to by upper management about the situation.
Mm-hmm.
And upper management told me in the situation that he came from a different generation. So the things that he said to me were him just like coming from the place that he was coming from.
Was this the back of house person?
Yes.
Yeah.
And one of the things that he said to me was that I had had a conversation about something that had happened, an interaction that I had, and he decided to take it upon himself to escalate the situation after I'd already handled it because, quote unquote, a man needed to say it for it to be taken seriously, which is both an absolutely bananas thing to say to a human being, and the fact that it was defended by upper management because he was from a different generation and, you know, at that point just like didn't know better.
Mm-hmm.
This man was 40, for the record. 14 years older than me. 14 years.
You know, those Gen Xers, man, completely different world.
But in this situation, like, he's not allowed to act that way just because he's older than me. There's no justification in you being a shitty person just because you're older. I will not respect you because you're older than me. I will respect you because you deserve respect, or you don't, and I won't. Suck it up, Buttercup. I think this one particularly, like, affects men in our society.
Yes, I would agree with that. It's inherently a very demeaning thing to say, and it's not meant to be helpful. It's not meant to be encouraging. Like, hey, it'll be okay.
You don't get feelings. Stop it.
Yeah. So my son is very in tune to his emotions.
Mm-hmm.
It's not something that I am altogether used to, but I mean, I think that I was pretty emotional when I was his age. I think just hearing back stories of ways I reacted to stuff, but I still have to find a way to rectify how I was treated, just experiences I've had when I was maybe showing emotions versus how I wish I would have been treated, and then find some middle ground for me to approach him with. Yeah. And I mean, this isn't something that I've had to deal with my daughters because you approach it in a completely different manner, but it's just because of the things that I've experienced and the ways I was treated and the ways that I treated other people. It needs a completely different approach.
Sure.
And so, yeah, Suck It Up, Buttercup is not meant to be helpful at all. It's meant to say, just shut up and do what you're supposed to do.
I've made a lot of male friends for most of my life. And I think a lot of that stems from the fact that, like, I create a judgment-free zone. Like, have the emotions you have.
You're the Planet Fitness of women. Was that a sexism? Did I just do a sexism?
I feel like I want to sound the lunk alarm for that statement. But no, like, I try to create, like, yeah, like a space. I've had a lot of feedback from, like, male friends and stuff that, like, there's not kind of a platform. And, like, I've spent a long time having conversations with my current partner about, like, the fact that there's really just not a societal willingness to accept that men also go through things.
Mm-hmm.
That the world is hard.
Oh, it is.
I can cry in public. No one's going to bat an eye.
Mm-hmm.
But if you cried in public, it would...
No, if you cried in public, you're going to have a huddle of women It's going to be okay. What's going on? If a man's crying in public, there is a 20-foot radius of a no-go zone.
And that's ridiculous. Suck it up, Buttercup. Nonsense.
Nonsense.
Not fit for 2025.
Nope.
All right, and my last one. Treat others how you want to be treated. That is how you get abused.
Yeah, I think that would probably be pretty prevalent in the DV arena.
Yeah.
Just women, not just women. I mean, I've had some experiences with being on the receiving end. No, I definitely see how you think that if you, and this goes back into, I don't know if I had this one. I mean, it's kind of like work one job, rise up, and hard work pays off. It's the if you keep going after the thing that you want,
Dress for the job you want, not the job you have.
yeah, then eventually everything's going to happen. Everything's going to fall into place for you. Everything's going to land where it's supposed to land. So I think that is definitely a justification for staying in those kind of relationships. And I do believe that people can change. I think that I am a glowing beacon for that sentiment because I take my life 3 years ago, completely different person.
Yeah.
But I had the motivation. I had a reason. I had a goal in mind. If you are just doing what you think you need to do and waiting for someone else to do it and they don't have any motivation, they don't have a goal, they don't have a reason, they're not going to change. They have no reason. There's nothing incentivizing them to change.
Yeah.
If they can still have their crappy behavior and get everything that they want, what is the motivator for them to change? Oh, well, I'm going to leave. Okay, no, you're not. So that one is a bunch of bull too. All of these things are great things in theory. They're great things that in a perfect world make sense.
May have existed legitimately in a bygone era.
Or maybe even when these things were created, when they were popularized, it was kind of a manifestation.
Sugar-coated nonsense.
Yeah, like we're going to say this and hope that it takes off and then hope that it becomes true. And maybe it did take off, but it doesn't mean it became true. That doesn't mean that it is a thing that everyone built their entire lives around because it was a thing that was just beaten into their heads since they were kids. I don't know. It's just, I think that these sayings are really indicative of the differences in generations.
For sure, yeah.
And I think that a lot of the issues that we have, a lot of the, I hate using the word systemic, but systemic problems that we have is based on the fact that there is such a great divide between generations. And saying that someone is stuck in their ways because this is just the way they've always done it, okay, but that's not a good excuse because that just means that no one stopped them along the way and said, hey, maybe don't be a dick.
Above all of the things, they're from a different generation, which is not one of the ones that I wrote down. That one might be the one that irritates me the most.
Yeah.
Is because, like, yeah, say you're from the 50s. So you were raised in 50s, 60s mentality. Sure. If you're still kicking it, like you existed for all of the time between then and now. You should be more worldly than me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm 26 years old. If you're telling me that you grew and then you just decided, oh, 30 is the right age, I'm going to stop progressing as a human being. And so you just lived all of the time between then and now being the same jerk that you've always been because that was the perfect era, then I think you don't belong in society.
But then you've also continued that because you've been allowed to continue that.
Right. Anyone who enables it by saying things like they're from a different generation needs to check themselves. It's stupid on every front.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
That's all I had.
Well, on that cheery note, this episode definitely had a lot more meat to it than I thought it would.
Yeah?
I saw Love Thy Neighbor on our list, and I was trying to figure out a way to expound upon that to make it a full episode, and we probably could have left the tipping thing as its own. In fact, I don't even know if tipping is
It was just a John Oliver
listed
episode, so I don't think it needs to be an us episode, too. All right, got any closing thoughts?
I think we covered a lot of good ground today.
Yeah.
I think that we proved to the world that we can be more than just silly movie reviews and jokes about obscenely large nipples.
And because I've missed a couple of episodes, M. Night Shyamalan still sucks. Not to take away from the poignancy of this episode, but it feels important that I throw that back in.
Yeah, that's a throwback. It's a throwback at this point.
Yeah.
We said we were going to mention it in every episode, and we dropped the ball. We're sorry, guys. Tell us how disappointed you are in a comment X, Instagram, Facebook, or in a 5-star review on Apple Music, Amazon Music, or Spotify. I swear that's my last one.
But it's not mine. Check out. No, I'm just kidding.
All right, guys. I would say my closing words of wisdom, not idiocy. This is something that you will be able to take. It's universal. It will be true until the end of time or until the AI relieves us of life on this earth, is just live your life. Just live it however you want to. Live your life to the fullest, because you only get, as far as we know, one shot. And as long as you were going to say one opportunity.
I was.
Well, you should have jumped in faster.
I thought you were going to finish it.
And as long as the way you are living your life does not impede anyone else from living their lives, then you're golden.
Do no harm, but take no shit.
Don't you mean take no crap? Since
I
we're
don't.
just bouncing back and forth?
I do not. I'm not censoring that one.
Okay. All right. We'll see you next time.
Peace out, Girl Scouts.